Bro, listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
You know, I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Can't get enough baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There's no human being who I'd rather be talking to right now than Andrew Bailey.
I appreciate that.
That's all.
Thank you.
I said that last time you were on. I'm going to say it again. But we were sitting there and we're like, when we had our podcast before, I think you enjoyed conversation. You enjoyed talking about the great game of baseball. Mm-hmm. And we said we're going to do this. And you're running around. You're a very, very busy person, which is understandable. But when we were talking about getting together, we were like, okay, well, what are you going to talk about? And you hit on something. I'm going to give you credit for hitting on it. All right?
Okay. Yep.
Which is, let's not look at things the same way. The opportunity and the ability to not look at things the same way just because we've been doing it the same way for a long time. Right?
Makes a ton of sense.
But in baseball, that's a tough nut to crack sometimes.
It is. It is. Sometimes you got to go out on a limb.
So tell me when you realized it was a tough nut to crack and that you wanted to crack.
I don't think it depends on what we're discussing, but for me, I just want pitchers to be the best versions of themselves every single 5 days, or every single time they take them out as a reliever. So you can look at training methods, you can look at usage rates, you can look at velo, you can look at a lot of different things that have changed over the last 10 years or so, and even more than that in baseball. Some things have taken longer than others, but I think the history of baseball and the tradition of baseball is pure and
stubborn.
What do you say?
It's pure and stubborn.
Yeah, and very stubborn. Yeah. So it's hard to crack. I mean, I think you look at what the Rays did years ago with the opener and that strategy and the waves it created in baseball. I remember I was the bullpen coach in Anaheim the first time we used an opener, and I was sweating out there. I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna go. And now it's just part of the game, right? So I think it takes time. It takes time.
When you're talking, one of the things I'm first thinking about is you were, I don't even know how old you were, 2003, when Theo tried the closer by committee. And I remember sitting with him and he's like, listen, 10 years from now, everybody's going to be doing this.
Yeah.
And the closer by committee thing, I think that we've learned, obviously there's something to it and the premise is good, but there needed to be tweaks because you had to have the right people to do it. There is that human element of certain players want to know when they're pitching and all of that stuff. I'm just ranting about but that's my point, is that when things like that are brought up, we're like, what?
Yeah.
Ooh, what? And so for you, when you were playing, do you remember an instance of someone suggesting something and you're like, oh, that's interesting? Maybe not, because again, when you were playing, I don't think there was the acceptance. It's like it's been light years.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have certain technologies or data to help with that. I remember a training method later on in my career called HRV that I remember the Mike Ranfone, who I was training with at the time, kind of still do a little bit, but he was like, hey, every morning when you wake up, I need you to get your HRV, lay flat for 90 seconds and see where your heart rate variability is at, and that'll kind of guide how we'll get after the day. And I was like, what? Okay. So I was always open to those things, trying new things, and but in terms of the game of baseball, no. I mean, I think it was more natural. Hey, try the two seam, try the changeup, try the cutter, and see what fits. I mean, the game of baseball is hard to crack, and I think you're starting to see some of those effects.
So for you, when was the launching point? Because we can go down a list and mention some. But for you, when do you feel sort of was a launching point in terms of your acceptance, your curiosity?
Early on.
Yeah.
I think my early pitch design was in Double-A. Gil Patterson and Scott Emerson with the A's. Kind of we worked through a couple things in the bullpen. I made a transition from the starting rotation to the bullpen. They said, hey, just try to throw this cutter. And, it opened up doors for me to get outs, and produce. And they're like, throw the ball as hard as you can and throw this cutter. And I was like, okay. And that's what happened after iterations of two seams and changeups and all kinds of different things. It's just not the way my body's kind of self-organized. But, I think like early on, I was always looking for the competitive advantage, ways to get better, and I think from a coaching standpoint, I just happened to fall into the game at the right time when there was this transition happening, and towards the later point of my career, I was kind of leaning on kind of that data information technology, whatever you want to call it, to kind of get back. And so I kind of learned through using, and then from a game strategy standpoint, being in a few different organizations now, adopting different philosophies and principles and seeing how the game can kind of unwind and the strategy involved and the value of bullpen days from a win standpoint and a win expectancy standpoint. But no matter through it, you talked about the human element. No matter what we're trying to do, the communication in the clubhouse to the players is paramount to anything.
Well, that was with the shift stuff. That's the surface level example of that,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Where you would have pitchers who were like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, let's sit down. Let me explain this to you.
Yeah.
And even I'm not even pitching. I remember Mookie, like when they first started giving him cards in the outfield.
Yeah.
They're like, what? I'm not going to look at this card.
Yeah, I used to have pitching cards and all these different things. But information's a great,
But you have to communicate. You have
the communication.
Because everybody's different in the way they accept
Yes,
things,
exactly. And you said layer on the human element of things. Who can open? Who can take down the ninth? When do you go to your closer? What is the highest leverage point in the game? All of those things matter. But is the player prepared for it? Mentally, emotionally, and physically on a daily basis.
So when you get to the Giants, became the pitching coach there, what is the thing you remember sort of wanting to introduce? And maybe you're even like, I don't know.
What with the Giants?
Yeah, that's because that was
I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't. I remember when Cap and Farhan hired me, I was like, I don't know. I've never been a pitching coach before, so.
But that makes it even more challenging.
Yeah,
you probably have ideas, and you're like, do I want to say this?
Yeah, I really lean. I still lean on everyone around me. I mean, our staff is, a byproduct of one, their talent, and two, the people around the staff and the resources we have. So amplifying their voices is huge, and allowing them to feel fulfillment and purpose in what they do for work on a daily basis is huge for me. I don't think anybody wants to come to work and not feel fulfilled. So allowing the people around us to do their job is really meaningful to me. And I think, one of the reasons, there's been some success, not only in Boston and San Francisco, but really good people. And allowing them to do their work. But we talked a little bit off camera about the bullpen's post game. And
you started so.
Yeah, I don't want to take full credit.
No, I'm not asking you to take full credit, but it's just the.
Yeah, this is like one of the examples.
Yeah.
I don't think like anything pressing. There was nothing new I wanted to do in San Francisco. I think we just. Opportunity presents itself, and you make a decision on whether.
Open mind.
Yeah, you keep an open mind, and you make a decision at that point in time. Do you think this is valuable for your guys, or an individual, or from a philosophical standpoint? So like you look at kind of how we got through the season last year with multiple bulk pitchers in the bullpen, and going into a season with deep starters, and then kind of mixing and matching and. It was just a kind of a byproduct of the roster we had, and and then there's certain times here where we've had to open for different reasons and do different things. So I don't think that there's like a philosophy. I think when a team can kind of ebb and flow, is really valuable. It's the season's fluid, right? Like you don't start the season with 5 starters and you end the season with 5 starters, and there's periods of time where you have to get maybe creative and lean on, strategy a little bit more here and there. But I think like talking with Cap and some other employees over in my previous employer, talking about how we can support players off the field, how we can support their bodies, maximizing recovery, and it's something I still prioritize. I just remember the grind as a player of the season, and one of the things that we thought about was, there's always this bus, 40 minutes after day games, and you're on a bus to the airport. Like, what if we made it 50 minutes or an hour, and the starters could, instead of waking up at 8 a.m. and come prep and get ready and throw a bullpen at 10 o'clock in the morning, what if they just went through a regular day, kind of watch the game unfold, and then go in the 6th inning and start prepping with the trainers, and then after the game at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, go out, do your throwing program, your bullpen at a more normal time in which you would kind of get ready on a daily basis for a start. So that was one strategy we kind of implemented the last couple years,
and guys like that,
and guys are doing it here. Pavetta, Witt, Tanner, Chase Anderson did it in Seattle. Like even our long guys in the bullpen, like, all right, hey, instead of throwing a 25-pitch pregame bullpen and then maybe needing to be available for 35, 50, 60 pitches, whatever it is, for a few innings at night, why don't we just wait until after the game and do the work? So my next question is, like, how can we just flip baseball on its head and just make the game the priority, to show up late, to maximize recovery? Because at some point in time, these guys can just, like, potentiate and phone calls, and they're good to go. They don't need to long toss or throw 120 feet or touch the slope, before the game. You don't have to start the engine twice. So can you just get normal throwing program post game as well? So, at what point in time does the game become the priority and the work, and kind of the more traditional baseball stuff of just going to play catch before the game because that's just what we do. I don't have a reason for why we play catch before the game. So like those types of things, kind of pushing the needle on that and challenging those perspectives are interesting. And
a little bit. The great game of baseball.
I think like maximizing recovery is huge, and I think like taking.
It's funny you said though, like, not to interrupt, but it's like, I guess we play catch.
Yeah, I mean,
but those are the things that I'm talking about. Is that, like, we do, as you know, there's a routine. There's like, this is how it's done.
Yeah. Well, and I think like what's been really cool for me is our pitchers are already kind of trying to do that. We've pushed our arrival times or our throwing windows a little bit later in the day. They kind of match up with like the defensive work on the field. So we're just not out on the field at 3 o'clock on the road playing catch, and then the game's at 7. It's like, okay, come later, and we hit BP at 5:20, so we'll throw at 5 o'clock. So move it back 2 hours. So I think like those types of things we can push the needle on to find just a little bit extra time for the guys to recover, and when we're working. And I think the starter bullpens was a good start to that. The guys seem to like it. No one's known the difference of a 10-minute bus needing to be pushed back here or there if it needs to happen. But I think the guys not feeling they need to wake up and rush and get ready and come in and throw a 10:30 bullpen on a Sunday, and it's you're just not ready body-wise. So pushing that back to a more normal time is seems reasonable.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
No, it does to me. And like I said, if they like it and they accept it, it's good. And it's a results business, and the results have been good. There's a long list of things that we can say. Okay, we've tweaked this and we tweaked that. But I don't know if you can, but in the last, say, year, because baseball seems, especially when it comes to pitching, seems like it's evolving like crazy.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that that you have seen a change or you've implemented as a staff that you've changed over the last, let's say year, 6 months, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always want pitchers leveraging their strengths. So I think obviously you look at our usage rates, and that's like everything everybody's talking about. But really, we just want we want our pitchers to. They're really talented, like I said, and
throw your best pitch.
Throw your best pitch in zone. I said it I said it to someone the other day. I'm like, innately, when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, and after school I'd ride my bike to the baseball field and play double or nothing with my buddies or wiffle ball in someone's backyard. Like, I didn't try and throw the ball straight. Like, I was trying to do crazy things. I was throwing it left-handed just to get guys out or whatever. Like, submarine, you're going from all different arm angles. Like, we're really just playing wiffle ball in a major league stadium. Like, you're trying to get the opposing hitter out. And now it's not our friend in the backyard, but, like, the wiffle ball concept just makes sense to me. Like, you're trying to induce weak contact or swing and miss, and when we were 10 years old in the backyard, we tried to make the wiffle ball do crazy things to do that. So why is it changing? And just because there's a perception of like 95 is fast means it's hard. Well, yeah, it is, but like it still has damage attached to it. So like just be a 10-year-old in the backyard and play wiffle ball with your buddies, you know what I mean, and try and get them out. And like now there's there's nuance there, of course, but and I also think that like the history of baseball just says that like fastballs are the pitches that pitcher A can command, and I don't think that's true. I think that everybody's different. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and someone might be able to command their cutter better than their four-seamer, or someone might be able to command their sweeper better than their curveball. I don't know, but like I just think that like just point blank saying that like, oh well, you throw fastballs for strikes, like sure, I think that makes a ton of sense. You always want strikes, but doesn't necessarily mean that's the most commanded pitch. When
you're talking to me, it makes sense to me, right? Especially I love a good wiffle ball analogy. My one-finger shit kicker was off the charts.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's when you're talking, and I know this was you wanted to take root in spring training, and you want these guys to believe in spring training. Could you see that this acceptance of it early on, or is that a process? Because as you said, hey, fastball, strike one, let's go.
Yeah. Well, strike one's like the best pitch in baseball, right?
Yeah. But if you have movement on it compared to
you're gonna the probability of a positive outcome for you and the team is higher. No, I mean, I think that, like I said, man, we have a really talented bunch of pitchers. We really do. And allowing them to be themselves, allowing them to create their own identity as pitchers and what they want to be. And everybody wants to be good, right? Like everybody wants to be dominant and buying into what they do well, their outlier pitch shapes. I really believe that, like, pitchers are here for a reason because they have certain outlier qualities to them, and that's the difference sometimes between guys in AAA and guys in the big leagues. And I think for the longest time we talked about as an industry as just like a mindset. Well, I think like there's also pitch quality aspects and command aspects and all of that stuff. So what makes you a big leaguer? Why are you here? What outlier qualities do you have relative to everybody else? And don't get off of those. Like, those are you. Like, those are what make you a major leaguer, and stick to your strengths at all costs.
So before we started talking, I was saying I'm so smart because I came up with all these numbers about the top rotations, the top two pitchers, and I mentioned ERA, and like you can see your teeth grinding. Like, what are you talking about? So okay, so we know that ERA is maybe classified as an archaic. All stats have worth, but maybe an archaic stats. It's sort of like 5 years ago we finally got the oldies to understand that a pitcher's record maybe not be the be-all, end-all.
Yeah.
And now it's ERA. So for you, what is some quote-unquote stats?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd mentioned FIP or xFIP. I think ERA is a fine. It's fine.
I like
stat.
It. I like it personally.
But like I could go out there and like I could go walk to and give up a 110 line drive into the gap, and Duran makes a diving play, and then I punch out a guy, and then whatever, Bobby saves a ground ball down the line, I'm out of it, and you can go out there and punch out 3, and we both have a 0 ERA. Right. But like, over 162 games, like I'm going to go give up a bunch of runs if I'm getting hit around and walking dudes, but getting out of things. So I think over a longer stretch of time, I think looking at the FIP or the xFIP values are more indicative of success, and I think ERA over a small sample is just tough to look at because it's so reliant on a lot of different variables. It just balls in play and your defense and your strikeouts and walks. So I just think that there's some other.
So what's the next one? What's the one that maybe that we aren't that you jump to you want to see a pitcher and you jump to this whatever stat, whatever you want to call it, measurement. Because it couldn't be a stat. Maybe it's hard hit rate.
I can't. I don't know. It's not proprietary information, but there's things that I value, and I think that there's things that our organization values, and like I said, I think let's blink twice if it's swing and miss. It's hard hit rate. I don't know. I think all of the metrics have their value, and like we talked about before, is you can drive the narrative any way you want. You can make a pitcher look really good with all the information. You can make a pitcher look bad, or a hitter, or whatever. There's just so much out there, and I think just holding true to what we value as a staff, creating structure and accountability around that from a process standpoint is highly valuable because there is a lot out there. But I think if you can, as a staff and as an individual pitcher, if you can find out what you want to prioritize and that what you believe works at the major league level, sticking to that. Is that throwing strike one? I mean, part of it, part of it,
and getting outs, and
all of that stuff.
Oh wow, man! So, what is the thing? What is the thing that you would like to see? What is the thing that's coming that you feel like we'll be sitting here a year from now that will be more of an acceptance that's maybe not being accepted now, but not prioritized now? Anything jump to mind? I mean, it was, if you go back a year, like a year ago, it's like we were still getting our head around the term sweeper. We're still, oh my goodness, like, how did the Rays do it? They throw strike one, they have T-shirts made up. It's great. But it's like this stuff is changing so much, and you mentioned the bullpen. I mean, this is. Up until you said it a couple days ago, it made sense to me.
But
I don't know if there's anything in baseball that sort of you're like, okay.
Not off the top of my head.
Besides like pushing ERA to the side.
No, I think it's already been done, right?
No,
not really.
No, not. I mean, for relievers,
for sure.
Yeah, for relievers. Is it? So
is it?
Well, let me ask you this. Let's go ahead if you have something. Let me ask you this. So I don't want to get into the injury thing. We've talked about a million times.
Yep.
And there's different philosophies, and I think that you had said, hey, listen, these guys are getting more opportunity. Like, so we talk about changes and pitches and everything else. Well, a lot of them, they're getting in the door because of these changes in the pitches, and so people are like, oh, how dare you do that? You're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So how are we going to look at? I know you got to go, but how do you look at that in the injury narrative potentially changing anything, or will it change anything? Or is it genie out of the bottle already? I mean,
I don't know yet. I'm not there yet. I don't think. I think injuries are a part of the game of baseball. It's really hard to go wire to wire without injuries. Depth is huge. I think the continued value of bullpen days and bulk pitchers and those type of strategies in place of just giving traditional starts, I think we can probably be more accepting of as an industry. I think gives a better win, so a win probability. So maybe that would be my one answer.
All right, I appreciate it.